I'm back with my DreamWorks Dragons Race to the Edge recap series. This time it's episode 12, The Next Big Sting. Hey guys, it's Morgan with the Rotoscopers and I am back, and we have only 2 more episodes of DreamWorks Dragons Race to the Edge, but luckily these episodes just keep getting better and better and better, which again makes me sad because after this episode we're done. But let's talk about episode 12. So episode 12 starts out with the Dragon Riders, and Hiccup is experimenting with a new prototype of a suit that he wants to show them, because he thinks that at one point in time you might need to have the ability to fly. He calls this suit the Dragonfly 1, and if you've seen How to Train Your Dragon 2 and the suit that he has in that film, this one is a very primitive prototype. So he says, hey guys, it's gonna be amazing, I can fly, and he jumps off the cliff, and no. So he tries it again, and again, and again, and each time he doesn't fly, but he crashes down. There is a moment at one of the attempts where he catches wind a little bit, but ultimately crashes and burns. The other Dragon Riders are definitely not impressed. They don't think that he should continue this effort, but he is going to ignore them and continue trying anyway. After this, they encounter a dragon called a Speed Stinger, and no one is happy to see this because the Speed Stinger, while it is very small, it's very potent and dangerous. It's a nocturnal animal, so you're only going to see it come out at night, but this one is out in the daytime, and it turns out it's because it's injured. They're flying away and everyone's saying, nope, ignore it, nope, I don't want to deal with Speed Stingers, because Speed Stingers actually paralyze you and make it very hard to, move because you're paralyzed. Snotlout in particular wants nothing to do with this dragon. He says, let's keep going, this is bad news, we should not help it. But of course, Fishlegs and Hiccup being them, they decide, yes, we need to help this because it's injured. We need to help it get better so it can find its pack. So they fly down, and it's quite a debacle trying to get a hold of this Speed Stinger, because even though they're trying to help it, it doesn't know that they are trying to help it. And so people, particularly Roughnut, she is getting, stung on certain parts of her body and paralyzed. It's very funny because this is a joke they continue throughout the episode with her and her dragon. They keep getting paralyzed no matter what they do, but ultimately they're able to get the dragon down, hold the stinger down, and Hiccup does the hand thing. He's gonna do the hand thing, right? Please, please tell me he's gonna do the hand thing. So since he did the hand thing, the Speed Stinger is now all on board with being their friend. They take him back to Dragon's Edge, where over the next few days they rehabilitate him. Fishlegs is at the forefront of this effort, and he actually does such a great job. He has little obstacle courses that the Speed Stinger can jump through. They have a splint that they tied onto him so to help strengthen his leg. Throughout this whole time, everyone continues to get stung. The Speed Stinger, even though he's their friend, doesn't really seem to understand that people don't like to be paralyzed. So Fishleg's arm is paralyzed, and of course Roughnut is paralyzed, and her dragon is paralyzed. Everyone is paralyzed, basically except for Snotlout, who has been avoiding the situation, and Hiccup. The time finally comes for the splint to come off of the Speed Stinger, and the Speed Stinger actually runs away, and this freaks Fishlegs out because he's going straight towards the water, and they don't have wings, so they cannot fly or swim. But as he approaches the water, the Speed Stinger actually walks on water, and they discover the reason is because they have evolved a little bit. They have webbing on their feet, which allows them to have a little bit more leverage to walk on water. Now, this is a characteristic that has evolved out of the need to go from island to island hop, which introduces us to all the other Speed Stingers who are very concerned about their lost Speed Stinger that was stolen from them. They use these wonderful evolutionary webbed feet to travel from the island where they were to Dragon's Edge. This is not good because the Dragon Riders are completely afraid and petrified by these Speed Stingers. I mean, one little baby one alone has nearly the whole crew, paralyzed, and they can't fend for themselves. So having a whole group of these on the island would not be a good thing. Unfortunately, Hiccup says, he's part of our team now. I don't want to take him back. And Snotlout does not agree with this. So right before sunset, he and Roughnut, they take the Speed Stinger and they fly away to take it back to its home. Unfortunately, they didn't time this very well because it is nocturnal, it was asleep, but once the sun goes completely down, the Speed Stinger wakes up and begins to sting them, stings the dragon, they fall down, and of course all chaos ensues. Now the other Dragon Riders have come and found them and to chat and obviously chastise them. But this doesn't go on for very long because the other speed stingers have arrived. So everyone needs to figure out how to stop them before everyone gets paralyzed for good. There's all sorts of fighting and awesome action that happens, but you know, the speed stinger, the little baby speed stinger, actually ends up paralyzing some of its own herd to save the riders, which is huge because it has now adopted the riders as its own herd rather than its original herd. But then it's kind of torn between the two herds. Does it go back with the original herd or does it stay with their dragon riders? But it does stay to fight for the dragon riders, and Hiccup at the very end, they have this big speed stinger who it has a little bit more red than the other ones. It's really distinctive to make it stand out as the chief, and that one is all business, and he is running on a cliff straight towards Hiccup and then jumps and springs forward, and at that very moment Hiccup and Toothless are flying, and Hiccup says, you know, release, which allows them to separate, and the speed stinger flies through them instead of directly at them. At this moment, we see the first appearance of Dragonfly 2, which is the flight suit that actually works this time. Hooray! And so it was all worth it. All his crashing and burning and drowning finally worked in this moment, which was a very, very crucial moment for it to work, I might add. And so finally the other speed stingers, they admit defeat and they go back to their home. The little speed stinger is kind of torn. He obviously wants to stay with the dragon riders, but Hiccup sees what is best and realizes, you know, this isn't where you should be. You're the place that is your home. You should be with your herd. So he gives him the okay to go away back to his island and to visit his, you know, original clan, and he does that, and hooray! So that was all we had this episode, and I loved this episode. Nothing happened plot-wise that really progressed the storyline, you know, between Dagger or maybe Heather, other things that we had seen, but this just felt very How to Train Your Dragon. We had a new dragon, and what they did is they trained it. I mean, I'm glad that not every episode focuses on we have a new dragon and we're going to train it, but I thought that this was just a great way. You know, these new dragons that are appearing in this series, I think these new dragons are so much better than some of the original dragons from the original movie. Like, I think this Speed Stinger is so much cooler than Stormfly, or although nothing can beat Toothless. Toothless is the ultimate dragon, but these dragons are so unique and their designs are so beautiful. I'm really loving each episode where we get a new dragon. So yeah, this was just a really fun episode, and we got to see more of our favorite moments. This show is so funny. I'm always finding myself laughing at the different jokes and having a good time, and we're almost done, and we have to wait a few more months till we get the other 13 episodes in this first part. But I love this episode. I would definitely watch this one again, but let me know your guys' thoughts. What was your favorite quote or scene, or both, from this episode? Until next time, I'm Morgan, and you know what I'm going to say. This is the Rotoscopers YouTube.